Hey guys, I'm Anthony. This is Matt. We're the Amoonguss Burnouts, and we are back for a Week 8 Power Rankings for the Multi Battle Conference. We're going to kick this off right now. I'm going to shoot it over to Matt, and he's going to talk about what happened this week in Shield Division.
So we got our usual weekly wrap up here, starting off in Shield Division. Our first match is the Matt Alcinas versus the Potatoes. We are gonna skip over this one for now. We actually have an upcoming interview with one of those teams after this segment, so stay tuned for that. The next match is us, the Amoonguss Burnouts versus LA New Wave. This was a pretty solid win for us. This one started out with a Duraludon Meowstic lead from New Wave, and we led with Blastoise and Gorgeist. We went for a Follow Me Trick Room turn one. They ended up going for Fake Tears and Thunderbolt into the Blastoise. We're actually carrying a Wackenberry, so we were able to survive that hit. Fake Tears pretty interesting to see from them actually, because I don't think like it's a pretty obvious move to use on Meowstic, but I don't think we've seen it that much from them so
It is
far
why
this
we follow
season.
Mead, though.
It is, yeah. We were aware of that option. It's definitely a really strong option to have on Meowstic. So we respected it. They ended up going for it. We set up Trick Room. Blastoise survived about half HP. They went for the same play again. Knocked out the Blastoise when we follow Mead on turn 2. Went for Poltergeist on the Duraludon just for a little bit of damage. We're actually a little bit surprised not to see the Duraludon Dynamax turn 1. But it ends up Dynamaxing turn 3. After the Blastoise goes down, the Grimmsnarl comes in. Perfect timing for it to Gigantamax at the same time as that Duraludon. Um, we used the this opportunity to switch Gorgeist out into our Choice Spec Slowking. We Dynamaxed and went for Max Quake onto the Duraludon. Did a pretty good amount of damage. We lived a max steel spike after that, still with more than half HP. And the next turn, the only way we were able to take out the Duraludon that next turn was by doubling up onto it with another max quake and with a choice specs
Focus
focus
Blast.
blast. So a little bit risky there, but it was the only way we were going to KO the Duraludon that turn. We ended up hitting, worked out. Duraludon went down, even though Meowstic actually set up Light Screen that turn. So pretty good for us. We're still the score's 5-5, but we have 2 turns of Dynamax left, and they only got 1 max move off. Pretty good for us. After that, they brought in the Tangrowth to replace the Duraludon. We switched the Slowking back out into Gourgeist. We wanted to reset
Choice.
the choice specs. So we brought that back, brought Gourgeist back in, and we ended up going for a max snooze on. This is our last turn of Dynamax. Actually, we ended up going for a G max snooze onto the Meowstic slot. It switched out into Dracozolt, did about half. Dracozolt got drowsy, so it was going to fall asleep the next turn if it stayed in. So pretty good positioning for us still. Our Gigantamax is over. The Tangrowth actually tried to sleep powder us that turn, revealing our safety goggles, so they didn't even click Rage Powder the rest of the match. They
Yeah, I mean, they knew right away.
so um, so yeah, that really allowed us to keep our momentum going, not being put to sleep there with the safety goggles, and from that point on, we ended up setting up another trick room. We went for a protect and trick room that next turn. Trick room had just ended, so we set up another one, kind of reminiscent of our match against the Matt Alcinas. We
Yeah.
ended up setting up that second trick room. For the largely for the Grimmsnarl. And the side with the Meowstic and Dracozolt, they also had a Frostlast on that side. They weren't really able to do much inside of Trick Room, and the Tangrowth was not putting out very much offense at all. So it kind of just gave Grimmsnarl the green light to do whatever it wanted to the other side. It couldn't get redirected, so they didn't even bother clicking Rage Powder. We were just going for Darkest Lariats and Stomping Tantrums into that slot. We actually had Trick or Treat on our Gorgeist as well,
Yeah.
helped Grimmsnarl to sweep a little bit as
Put pressure
well.
down, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think we actually hit
No.
something with a Darkest Lariat while it was Ghost type, but especially after we revealed it, it was it was it was pretty scary for them to see. I imagine they had to respect that. So, um, but yeah, the Grimmsnarl was just able to put down a lot of damage. The Tangrowth was just sitting there, not really doing anything, staring down a grass type and then a safety goggles Pokemon. So we were able to beat down that side, took down the Dracozolt, the Meowstic, the Frostlass, and by this point there had already been two Trick Rooms had come and gone. We were getting down to the end of the match, and they ended up switching the Tangrowth out to Mew, as we switched out again into Slowking. We did have a Shadow Ball on the Spec Slowking, so we went for a Shadow Ball on the Mew. It actually transformed into our own Grimmsnarl. We ended up switching out into the Duraludon from the Slowking because we were locked into Shadow Ball. Wasn't doing much since Mew was now a Dark type. Uh, and we were going to attack the Mew with Duraludon, but that is where the time that's where the clock ran out. So we ended up winning that match, 4-2. Pretty good win. Their team just really Grimmsnarl, not usually the kind of Pokemon you'd expect to sweep in Trick Room, being a base 60 speed, but their team just really did not like Trick Room, and it was pretty clear in building as well that they were not prepared for that. So
Yeah.
pretty solid win there for us. And then our last match in Shield Division, the SoCal Skarmory's picking up that 3-0 forfeit win against the Lava Ridge Raiders, and the New England Patriots on a well-deserved bye this week.
The last buys, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, last buys of the year. All right, so in Sword Division, we had Team Pussy facing off against the Russian Assets here. A lot of playoff implications in this one. The Team Pussy ended up winning and actually put them back into playoff positions where they're tied up right now, with the Russian Assets and with the Sadistic Seniors in the standings. So it was a huge win for them. Team Pussy going with the same lead that they actually went with against Doesn't Click the previous week. They went with the Diggersby and Gyarados, not a Moxie Gyarados this time. They went with the Intimidate Gyarados this time. And the Russians actually went for a Gastrodon and for a Jolteon lead. I don't know if the Russians weren't expecting this per se. It was something that they had obviously done to the previous Cinderace team. So it obviously caught them off guard because they did end up double switching. They tried to go right for the Trick Room mode into the Butterfree and to the Gothitelle. They weren't able to get Trick Room set up. They were able to get the Tailwind up, but by that time the Diggersby was already at +1 with the Scarf, so it was going to outspeed everything anyway. So when the Jolteon came in under the Tailwind, it still wasn't fast enough to outspeed the Diggersby. The Diggersby was still able to get the Bulldoze off, make it slower, and then the Gyarados was able to pick up the KO. So it was one of those things where this match kind of ended fairly quickly after that. The Russians really didn't have anything to stop it. The Caparajah came in but was instantly knocked out. The Cinderace really couldn't do anything against it anymore once it had started steamrolling, and they ended up winning with the 4-0 victory here. It's good to see from Team Pussy that this is complete opposite ends of the spectrum here. You have a team that started off terribly and is kind of rising up back in the ranks here and trying to get back into playoff position late into the year. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, you have the Russians who started off very strong and were one of the top teams and are now on a 3-game skid. They're looking at maybe not making the playoffs at all. They obviously have the roster. They've proved that they have the play, but they've had some tough matchups along the way, and going on a 3-game skid here, it's not helping out their chances. But later on we'll talk about that, how there are a couple other teams are also making it easier for them to slide into the playoffs, even with the mistakes that they've made later on in the year. And even with Team Pussy, they can still make the playoffs, even with all the mistakes that went on earlier in the year. They're able to make up. So this was a huge game that had big playoff implications here. Team Pussy needed this victory, and they were able to come out. And with that Diggersby Gyarados, they basically just were able to sweep right through them. There was nothing that they could do after they got that set up. So after that, we had the Toronto Talonflames versus Doesn't Click. This one was just as dominant of a victory, honestly. but it was a little bit more played out. It didn't end right away like how Team Pussy and the Russian assets kind of that one had more or less ended right when on turn one when they couldn't get Trick Room set up. The Talonflames led with the Dragapult and with the Toxtricity, and Doesn't Click led with Raichu, and I believe it was Ground Silvally again. And one of the things that we saw right away was the Dragapult did not max, even though did have the max on that side. They went for Dragon Darts. The Raichu went for Nuzzle to they started shooting off the Nuzzles to kind of keep the speed control going. They were able to knock out the Dragapult later on. But one of the things that we saw was they kind of burned down the entire left side rather quickly. Doesn't Click did to the Talonflames by putting on pressure with the Cinderace. Like they had Tangela out there, they had a couple other things, and right when the Cinderace Dynamax, they had Tangela and Escavalier in a tough position because it was shooting off both max airstreams and max flares, and it had already set up the sun. So it was one of those things where the Talonflames needed to keep Escavalier and Tangela alive. So they were really banking on when they had the Tangela out there, it ate the first max airstream. They were really banking on pulling that back and maybe keeping the Escavalier alive. And the kudos to Doesn't Click. They went for the proper play. They went for the max flare right into that slot. And after that, there was nothing that they can do from stopping just Doesn't Click from burning down that side with the Cinderace. And once they did that, they were able to actually get in the Obstagoon into the mid game for free. And I don't know if this was a mistake on the Talonflames' end, but they didn't realize that all three of the Pokemon that were on that side were all weak to the Obstagoon. They had the Musharna, they had the Dragapult, and then they actually, in the end game, they had the Alolan Marowak. So at first we saw the Dragapult, it obviously had went down because it was already paralyzed, so the Obstagoon can outspeed it. So it goes down. The Musharna comes in, is able to get Trick Room set up, but now with the Escavalier gone, with the Tangela gone, with everything gone, there was nothing else that they could do about. They really couldn't put down a lot of pressure after that. So the Obstagoon was just putting down with knockoff pressure, and eventually ended up knocking it out. And then the Alolan Marowak comes in. Trick Room's already over. Your pressure's already gone. There was really nothing that they could do at that point. One of the interesting parts that we actually saw this week was the Dynamax mechanic coming into play, where it continues to rotate even after they burn aside. So one of the things that really hurt them was they did have a Trick Room turn left, but they had to protect in order to keep the Marowak safe, so that way it could Dynamax on the next turn. So an interesting aspect that happened right there, or an interesting mechanic that happened right there, where they had to wait for that to come back, even though obviously the Dynamax on that side all those Pokemon were already fainted, and it kind of completely stopped their offensive pressure that they may have had. Obviously, at this point, I feel that Doesn't Click kind of had it wrapped up, but it's just interesting that it really did hurt them later on. Tough loss for the Talonflames. This doesn't put them in too bad of a position. I believe they're going to be in the third seed, and they may have already locked. I could be wrong on that though, because they haven't. Yeah, it's so close right now in Sword Division. I don't even know if Doesn't Click has locked.
Nope.
Yeah, so I think the only team that's actually locked is the one that you're going to be talking about next.
The Sky Pillars are the first.
A great segue. So.
First ones in Sword Division to lock after this victory. And what was the score on Talonflames and Doesn't Click?
I believe it was 4-0.
4-0?
Yeah.
That sounds right. Okay. So we got a 4-0 victory there for Doesn't Click. And next up, another really dominant victory. This all these Sword Division games this week they were pretty dominant wins. The Sky Pillars ended up taking the match 5-0 against the Sadistic Seniors.
Big win for them.
Yeah. So they started off with a Rillaboom Riolu lead, and then the Seniors went for the classic Indeedee Porygon Z. The first mistake that the Seniors made was playing against a potential Sash Riolu when it was actually bulky Eviolite. So their first move, they went for Follow Me on the Indeedee, and They ended up going for a Max Hailstorm onto the Rillaboom. After the Riolu actually did not follow me that turn. Went for a coaching on the Rillaboom. Um, and so they went for a Max Hailstorm to set up the hail, break a sash. They got some good damage on the Rillaboom, but the Rillaboom ended up going for a Max Bug from U-turn onto the Indeedee, +1 Max Bug, took out the Indeedee easily. And then they got a special attack drop on Porygon Z. That's huge.
Yeah.
A Max Bug is really, really good against that combination. It's a really good tool for them to have. The following turn, the seniors brought in the Corviknight to replace the Indeedee. The Porygon Z, now at -1 special attack, went for a Max Strike. This time the Riolu did go for Follow Me. And we all know how hard Porygon Z hits. It was at -1, but I was shocked to see the Riolu actually live the Max Strike.
That was calced.
Probably, yeah. I mean, there had to be a reason they were running
Yeah.
Eviolite over Sash. Yeah, for sure. But still, I mean, it was that was amazing.
Great.
Yeah, the Sky Pillars I've noticed are good at those defensive calcs. Their defensive building has come in handy on more than one occasion. Especially with that Milotic, which
I'm
we
gonna give
didn't.
them the benefit of the doubt here.
Yeah,
Definitely. They proved it that they deserve it over these years.
yeah,
It's not just luck; they probably calced for that.
for sure. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. So anyway, and because they survived the Max Strike, that also meant that the Brave Bird from the Corviknight was redirected as well. So the Rillaboom did not take any damage that turn. It was +1, went for G-Max Drum Solo onto the Porygon Z, Dynamax Porygon Z, and took it out. Now we all know that Porygon Z, again, this is a calc that surprised me a little bit, not as much as the first one, but we all know Porygon Z is not the bulkiest Pokemon ever, but I did not expect a Dynamax Porygon Z to go down to the +1 G-Max Drum Solo, especially because Indeedee was the one that got the terrain up, so they didn't even have grassy terrain.
They were just at +1.
Yeah. So they got the KO on the Porygon Z. The following turn, the Alolan Raichu comes in at the same time as the Chandelure. Chandelure comes in to replace the Riolu. Raichu does go for a big expanding force because the Indeedee's Psychic Terrain was still up. The Corviknight actually got scared out because the Chandelure had just hit the field, switched into the Kanto Marowak. And the Rillaboom, again, for the third turn in a row, gets a KO with one of its max moves, goes for Max Darkness onto the Alolan Raichu and picks up the KO there. And the Chandelure ends up going for a Heat Wave, hits into the Kanto Marowak on the switch-in, now at -1 special defense from the Max Darkness. The last Pokemon the seniors had on the Raichu and Porygon side was unfortunately the Spritzee. So not the best to have in the back. Not a whole lot of pressure coming out from the Spritzee. They ended up they attempted to go for a Protect on Marowak and a Trick Room on the Spritzee. There was no they could protect the Marowak easily because the Rillaboom's Dynamax was over. But the Chandelure revealed the imprisoned Trick Room, and that kind of that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for the seniors. They were already on the back foot. They didn't really have a lot of resources left. They kind of had to rely on Marowak and Corviknight to get the last few all the rest of their KOs. And as soon as the Trick Room was stopped, that was pretty much it. And the Rillaboom and the Chandelure were really able to clean up. The Togekiss actually did end up hitting the field in place of the Rillaboom a little bit later in the match, helping to take down the Corviknight with, I believe, a double Heat Wave from the Togekiss and the Chandelure. Those last few Pokemon were able to clean it up, and the Sky Pillars won, only having lost their Riolu. No other Pokemon went down. It was a really, really dominant performance from them. It was really nice to see actually some other Pokemon shining here a little bit because most of the time the MVPs of their team have been that Golurk and the Milotic, which they had both of those in the back, but neither of them even hit the field this time. So they did prove that they can. It's weird to say they proved that they're able to get wins with their top tier Pokemon.
With their S tiers?
Yeah, which they haven't been putting in as much
No.
work as the others so far, but yeah, I mean clearly they're capable of using those mons as well. So yeah, really great win here. Good to see them. Not necessarily going with the same thing, or well, the same Pokemon, I guess, every week. So, but of course, I mean, they do change up their sets. Not that they,
Yeah.
you know, they're one of they have out of out of all the teams in the league, they have one of the best. They're one of the best at prep. So,
Yeah.
I love seeing what they bring to the match every time. So yeah, again, great win for them. 5-0 win. That's really huge, and this win makes them the first team to lock for playoffs in the Sword division. So congrats to the Sky Pillars for that. And then we have the Melee Mimikyus on a bye for week 8.
Yep. So that is gonna wrap up right now. These couple matches. We are actually going to be talking to one of the teams from the Mats and the Potatoes. So we're gonna talk to them about their match. They're gonna tell us a little bit more on what they were thinking and their game plans for going into it. So stick around and we will be right. Hey guys, we're back. We are here with a match analysis and interview with the Matt Alcinas, not this Matt Alcina, Ben and Vishy. Go ahead and say hi, guys.
Hi, I'm Vishy. Hi, I'm Ben.
All right, so we're just going to get into what exactly happened in the match first. Going to give you guys a brief overview of how it played out, and then we're going to talk to Ben and Vishy a little bit more about the match, get their thoughts. So we start off here with a Togetic and a Alolan Exeggutor lead from Alyssa and Henry, and we see Incineroar and Inteleon from Ben and Vishy. Starts off with just a safe double protect from the Potatoes to stall out a potential fake out from the Incineroar. The next turn, we see the Blizzard come out from the Life Orb Inteleon. Does about 90% to the Exeggutor because of the Yachi Berry. It did survive. The Incineroar switches out to Fungus, and the Exeggutor sets up Trick Room. This first phase of the match during Trick Room is really where we see the beginning of this sort of slow pace that the rest of the game takes. The Potatoes have Togetic out, which is a redirector and doesn't really do much else, so they're really just relying on that Alolan Exeggutor for offense. So they don't have a tremendous amount of offensive pressure on the field, and we see Ben and Vishy playing pretty defensively. They cycle through some switches and protects. They put the Togetic to sleep with the Fungus. They do end up taking a KO on the Thwackey. They get a KO on the Alolan Exeggutor toward the end of Trick Room in return. And after Trick Room ends, we see we don't see the pace really pick up at all. It's still a pretty slow defensive game. The Incineroar and Fungus are cycling switches a lot. The Fungus is putting a lot of stuff to sleep. It really allows Ben and Vishy to put out offense only when it's safe for them to do so. They do end up taking a KO on the Drapion with a close combat from Urshifu and a snipe shot from Inteleon. And the Fungus just puts in so much work because it stops Alyssa and Henry from putting out the offense that their team really wants to put out. They never really end up getting their sand mode going. They're able to really slow things down with that spore on Fungus. Toward the end of the game, the Inteleon and the Excadrill end up maxing at the same time. Excadrill gets a big hit off on Fungus, brings it down to very low HP and gets put to sleep. The Inteleon goes for a max Hailstorm and kills the Togetic. And after that, the Urshifu comes out after Togetic goes down, gets a free KO on the Fungus. Max Airstream goes into the Gigalith as it switches in from the U-turn, and the game ends 4-3 in favor of Ben and Vichy. So the Potatoes were able to take one last kill there, saving one differential point. Every kill does matter, of course, so good on them for that. But they did end up taking the loss due to time. So, and in fact, the game ended up being so played so slowly and defensively that both the Excadrill and the Inteleon had a turn of Dynamax left at the end of the game. So that's pretty interesting. So that's how the game played out. 4-3 victory in favor of the Matt Alcinas here. Next, we're gonna get into some questions. Do you want to start off with the first one?
Yeah, a couple questions. So first thing we wanted to say was, first off, great victory. This had a lot of playoff implications here. So kudos to you guys for being able to clinch your playoff spot with this win. But we noticed in our pick'ems that you guys had just dropped your Politoed and picked up a Tyranitar, a move that we found pretty interesting, seeing that you guys had to go against Sand the next upcoming week. And we just wanted to know what the thought process was, dropping the Politoed, picking up the Tyranitar, also dropping the Magnezone and picking up the Thwackey. That one we kind of understood a little bit more. You wanted a grass type to fill out that Firewater grass core. But the Tyranitar was... not that it wasn't a bad pick, it was just an interesting one considering the matchup. What was your guys' thought process behind that?
So generally we felt that this matchup was already pretty dependent on how we played. And Polito doesn't really make our matchup significantly worse. Not us not having Politoed. And for our upcoming matchups, we felt generally we wanted another Mon that could actually have an impact on the game. Since generally our past games, past losses, it's come down to us getting the leads wrong and then just instantly losing basically one of our only two real offensive threats. So we just wanted another Mon that could actually perform and actually survive and put out damage. Because we also don't have a good Mon that we can reliably switch into. Yeah, and then generally Instant Fungus T-Tar is a pretty solid core to work around with as well. So we felt pretty comfortable with that.
So you wanted something a little bit more reliable, something that put out a little bit more offense so that you didn't have to rely on maybe the Inteleon, Urshifu, and kind of the Gengar, which can be a bit frail, especially given the 4x weakness on Urshifu. So is that about right? Is that what you were kind of going for?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, and the Magnezone for the Thwackey, what was the thought process behind that trade?
So Magnezone was pretty much in multiple weeks that we brought it in, it was getting KO'd by ground coverage moves, which are really common. So we just thought it was just annoying to have to deal with that every single round and just lose Magnezone. In our match against your team, the Amoonguss Burnouts, your Grimmsnarl knew Stomping Tantrum, and so did your Duraludon, and our Magnezone just got KO'd without actually putting in any work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. And I do actually really like the addition of the of Thwackey as the grass type. That was sort of one of our criticisms at the beginning of the season, was that we really wanted to see a better grass type rather than just Fungus there. Maybe something with a little bit more offensive pressure. And I don't think a lot of people think of Thwackey as an overly offensive Pokemon, but we also saw that that you guys brought a choice band Thwackey this week, so that's plenty offensive for sure. So I do kind of like that trade. It gives you something else, something to replace Magnezone that also helps deal with water types. So I do like that trade. Yeah, especially definitely, given that you have the Tyranitar too.
So this next one is for Vishy. So if people watch the video, around turn three, the beginning of turn three, literally Trick Room had just gone up, and you mentioned that you were pretty sure that you guys were gonna have to play in a timer in order to get this victory. Um, Obviously, it did end up going to timer. We heard that from Matt earlier. It ended up being a 3-2 victory on you guys,
4-3.
or 4-3 victory on you guys. So I just wanted to ask, like, that's an amazing foresight, coming for that in turn three that you guys were going to be able to go to time, and that was you guys going to be your win con. Um, what was your guys' thought process in general? What was your thought process in like why you guys were going to have to go to time so early on in the game?
So basically, our board position at that point when Trick Room got set up was Inteleon and Fungus on the field against their Executor and full health Togetic, or close to, or slightly above half health Togetic.
Yeah.
So since they had the speed control up, and then our Fungus wasn't going to be able to do any damage because it had Grass Knot, not Sludge Bomb. And our Inteleon was just going to get KO'd by the Executor. So we knew that we had to stall out Trick Room while taking as little damage as possible, or as few losses as possible. So that's already like 5 turns of the game where we're just playing defensively, basically.
Yeah, that's.
So I
I
thought
mean,
it,
yeah, that's fair. Especially, I mean, and I think that was also some great foresight because you not only played defensively in Trick Room, but you kind of did the same thing out of Trick Room too after it ended. Like I mentioned earlier, the Fungus just put in so much work, just putting things to sleep and making sure they couldn't. And the Intimidate and the parting shot from the Incineroar too, just mitigating damage and putting things to sleep, not really allowing them to get the offense that they wanted. So, given that it kind of looked like that was your game plan, moving forward from that point, I think that was a good early observation. Um, Speaking of game plan, since you clearly went with a more defensive mode in the game, I wanted to ask about what exactly you expected to happen in this match. Like, was it was that defensive mode part of the plan? Was there another more offensive mode that you had as just as an option? What were you how were you expecting to play this match going into it?
Generally, I think we expected like a more Urshifu centric game. I think we kind of planned on like trading Inteleon for something like their Urshifu or like their Excadrill, and then we would just allow our Urshifu to kind of clean up from there with like Fungus support. Obviously, that didn't happen, and instead we ran into a situation where they led follow me Trick Room, which thankfully we had something like the Blizzard on Inteleon for. But yeah, overall, I think we generally expected to play like a much faster paced game with kind of like just focus like both sides focusing more on like the Urshifus.
So you had that more offensive kind of mode with Urshifu, and then you went with the more defensive option based on what they were playing with, I guess. Okay, so let's see.
Do you want to let him go first, and then we can continue on with Ben?
Sure, yeah.
All right, so you know what, Vishy, we're gonna go ahead and let you go. Thank you for coming on. We're coming against your clock here. We don't want to keep you for too long over. We can continue with Ben. We're just gonna have a couple of questions on it. Unless you feel that you can stay, then by all means.
okay. I think I'm gonna have to go then.
No problem, buddy. No problem. Thank you again, man. Thank you. We
Thanks for
appreciate it.
the opportunity.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Fishy.
All right. See ya.
All right. So real quick, Ben, we're just gonna finish this off with you since we kind of already went over the game plan. We just wanted to kind of, spitball with you a little bit here, and talk to you about what your thoughts were on the season so far. We're obviously coming into week 8 or week 9. We're coming into. We just finished week 8.
Yeah.
And So how do you feel your guys' season has gone so far? What do you think?
I think we had some like pretty up and down moments. Obviously, we were 2-2 at one point. I think we lost to you guys and Hector, which is like never gonna live that down. But I think it's honestly gone more or less like expected. I don't. I think we were like had like a general idea that like we were kind of like we were both gonna be busy this year, and like we weren't sure how the season was gonna go. But I think it's been like a pretty good season overall. Considering how we started last year 0-2, I think it's probably been significantly better, I guess I would say. And like clinching playoffs um like in more like an early manner rather than like having to actually play out the last games. Is pretty tough. Was like pretty nice, I guess.
Yeah, that's something that I guess we should have mentioned with this victory. You guys did lock into playoffs. Your seed is not locked yet, but you are guaranteed playoffs
Can't
now.
finish
After
lower than fourth seed.
yeah, yeah. So what are your do you have any expectations for the last couple of weeks? Your matchups there going into playoffs. What are your thoughts moving forward?
I think we're probably still gonna like try to take it seriously to obviously lock in like the uh second to third seed, 'cause we don't want to avoid you guys. 'Cause we think we have like a generally better matchup against the Patriots. But like as for like these upcoming weeks, I think generally we're just gonna like try to torture people, especially in the videos you guys are gonna have to watch. Um, so that's gonna be fun. But yeah, we're probably also gonna bring some like more fun things. You can like look at our team and see some trends there and like fun stuff we could bring. So yeah.
Any any crazy stuff in mind for that last transaction period?
Uh, we're just gonna probably wait it out. I don't have anything specific in mind, but I'm sure we'll come up with something that probably does need to change.
Okay. Well, I guess that's about all we have for you. Any final thoughts, Ben?
Not really, just
Okay.
kind of vibing.
Well, thank you, Ben, for coming on again. Thank you, Vishy. Unfortunately, we did have a little bit of a scheduling conflict there mid recording, but that's okay. We'll
Yeah, it's
we'll have you guys back on again at some point, I'm sure.
Yep.
Yeah, if
Maybe
I'm gonna be you guys,
what's that?
you guys gonna have to interview us when we win, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. If we go against each other in top four, or if in your guys' top 8 match, we'll interview you guys for sure.
You have to win though.
You have to win, obviously. We're
No,
not
I
gonna.
was talking about when we beat you guys.
Yes, of course, of course.
Yeah.
Come on. We want to eat that crow. But yeah, hey, I just want to say before we end this, we definitely thought you guys were going to be a top team coming into this year. It obviously started off a little bit rocky for you guys, and we've been picking against you, and you guys have been still winning. But we picked you guys as one of the better teams this year, and it looks like it's going to come out to that. You guys already clinched playoffs, and honestly, I expect big things coming out. Even if I wouldn't be surprised if you guys made it back to finals. Honestly,
Same.
even with us being in your way or with the Patriots being in your way, I wouldn't be surprised at all if you guys came and made it to finals. So good to see you guys are going to be in the playoffs, and should be honestly a fun time these next couple of weeks.
And after this, we will be right back with your Week 8 power rankings.
All right. Thanks again, Ben.
Thanks for having me.
Hey guys, welcome back to our Week 8 Power Rankings video. We're going to jump right into it right now. First things first, obviously, we're showing the 1 through 14 right away. We're not going to go into 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do a countdown or anything like that. As you can see, if you take a look right here, nothing's really changed. Two teams have swapped spots. But other than that, we haven't really seen a lot of movement. Teams are starting to cement themselves a little bit more. It's starting to become more and more clear who the top teams are as we get further and further into the season. So we'll just go right off the bat. Matt, go ahead and get us started for week 8.
All right, so just going down the line here, number one, us, the Amoonguss Burnouts, we are still the only undefeated team. Then we got the Sky Pillars at number 2, Doesn't Click at number 3. Clearly the main powerhouses of Sword Division. We got the Matt Alcinas and the New England Patch Rats at 4 and 5. Just having recently locked their playoff spots in Shield Division. We got the Toronto Talonflames still sitting at number 6. Still, we love their team. Unfortunately, they did take a loss this week, but it was against Doesn't Click. No shame in that. Sadistic Seniors also took a loss this week. Still sitting up here at number 7. Team Pussy actually moving up. Our only team this week that's actually moving up after a pretty dominant win against the Russians. Potatoes still at number 9. Didn't really want to move them because they did of course take that loss against Ben Vichy, but it wasn't a big loss. It was still a close game, so didn't see much reason to move them around. The Russians, unfortunately, taking that bad loss against Team Pussy, they did swap those 8 and 10 spots. SoCal Skarmories took a free win this week. They didn't end up playing. LA New Wave took a loss against us this week. They're down here still at number 12. And then, of course, we have the Melee Mimikyus and the Lava Ridge Raiders down at 13 and 14, finishing us off. So any thoughts on any of these teams? Maybe some teams that you may have wanted to move, or...
No, I'll say this. In the top 3 spots, you have us, and the Sky Pillars, and Doesn't Click. I honestly think that because of the weakness in our division, since we're undefeated, obviously we have to put ourselves at the top. But
we don't have to.
It makes it very tough for us to... Like, if any other team was undefeated, it would make a very tough argument for us not to put them at the top.
Right.
We would have to make an extremely good case. But the main thing I was going to say is I still feel like the Sky Pillars and Doesn't Click, even though they have a couple losses, the Sky Pillars only have 1, but, that they have losses under their belt, they're still just as good as us because they have such a tough division. You have that iron sharpens iron mentality. And I think, even though the Mats and the Patrats have both got their slots, because they have taken losses, I feel that they're still a tier below. The Mats and the Patrats are still a tier below the Sky Pillars and Doesn't Click. While I do love both the Mats and the Patrats particularly, I love their team composition. I think it's fantastic. And the Mats, their ability to team build and find their win conditions pretty much under any circumstances is really unparalleled. They're showing it year after year. They could have a bad matchup, and I think the only team that seemed to have them figured out because of their bad matchup and did not give them a chance to do anything dates back to last year, to Team Pussy beating them in the finals. Mm-hmm. I think that was the only time that they were just outclassed. But other than that, they don't lose sitting, just lying down. They put up a fight. We saw against the LA New Wave. They had a terrible matchup against them. And LA New Wave immediately pounced on them and immediately put the pressure down. And they still were able to, make it a fairly close game. I believe they only lost 2-0. That could have, right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I think it was a 2-0 loss. It was a long time ago. But, that could have easily been a 5-0, 4-0 loss. Very, very, very easily. Could have even been a 6-0 sweep. But they were able to try and find their win condition. They knocked out Pokemon as they needed, and they were able to kind of keep the differential good. Pretty decent in that loss anyway. So, kudos to them for, but I still feel that the teams are just a tier below when you look at Doesn't Click and the Sky Pillars.
A bit, yeah. I mean, just to tack on to what you were saying about Ben and Vichy. I mean, I think this last match that we just got done talking about was a great example of that. I think they had on paper they had a pretty bad matchup, especially after they traded for that Tyranitar, which they knew. I mean, they didn't even bring it in team preview. Um, so and then they were still able to pull it out. They knew what they had to do. They knew they had to go with that pivoting sleep kind of mode with the Incineroar and the Fungus, and it ended up working out. It was obviously close because it was going to be really tough for them to actually take a win and close out the game given the team matchups. But yeah, they are able to. They're clearly able to take a team that doesn't seem to have a good matchup and scrounge up some good sets and figure out a way to pull it out. Which is why they're as far as Shield Division goes, they're second here on the power rankings. So, but yeah, I agree. The Sky Pillars and Doesn't Click are a cut above some of these other top teams. I mean, the Sky Pillars, of course, only taking one loss so far, and it was against Doesn't Click, which again, like I said with the Talonflames this week, there's no shame in losing to Doesn't Click. And Doesn't Click, of course, they've taken 2 losses so far, but those were partially due to some bad luck.
To 2 teams that might not even be in the playoffs.
Yeah, true.
It's a possibility.
In a different universe, it's possible that they're undefeated right now as well.
Yeah.
Which kind of honestly made me wonder about putting them above the Sky Pillars, but given the records and given that the Sky Pillars had an even more dominant win than Doesn't Click did this week, it was pretty hard to do that. But they are like, they're a very, very close 2 and 3.
Yeah.
This is not a situation where it's like clearly one is 2, clearly one is 2, and then far down is number 3. No, they're like this.
Yeah. Last year we had a couple of good rematches. Obviously, you have to play somebody that you played at one point, but last year we had the Mats and the New England Patriots once again going against each other in the top 8 of the playoffs. And one of the things that you saw was while the Patriots had beat them earlier in the year, the Mats actually beat them in the playoffs, and actually that ended up happening for us too in top 4. But this year, who knows? Because it looks like the Mats and the Patriots are going to be locked up again at that 3 and 4 seed.
Could be. We'll get more into that a little bit later. But it's possible.
We have those things where it's like, hey, the Patriots may be able to pull it out against them in the playoff scenarios as well. But I think one of the things too, just to kind of get off the top 5 teams, I want to hit on the Toronto Talonflames. I really like that team just in general, but one of the things that I was a little bit disappointed in, I really wish they would have split one of the games with either the Sky Pillar or Doesn't Click. I don't expect them to beat both of them. That's obviously a tall task to beat both those teams. But when you were very clearly the third best team going into the last couple of weeks, like they're the third best team in Store Division. I would have liked to at least say, hey, we can hang with the big dogs too. We could take a win off the Sky Pillars. We're just as good as them. Or we take a win off Doesn't Click. And it was disappointing to see that they got dealt with pretty handily both times. I do like their team composition. They've played fantastic throughout this year, and that's obviously why they're in the position that they're in. But that is something that I was a little bit disappointed in as these last couple of weeks, that they couldn't at least split one of those or at least make it close, because the Sky Pillars and Doesn't Click showed, just like they have been to most teams, that, they're not to be messed with. They're a good team. So, a little bit disappointing on that end, but it does look like they're probably going to be okay. They need to keep it up. I think they have a decent squad, though, definitely, I think.
Yeah, for sure. The squad looks great.
Yeah.
I really like their draft composition. I think that it's. I mean, it actually. It seems it's so balanced. It kind of reminds me of ours a little
Yeah.
bit. But I think the way that it's looking right now, the Talon Flames will at some point in playoffs will most likely be meeting the Sky Pillars or Doesn't Click. Um, I don't know if that'll be the first week or this top four or whatever. We'll get into the specifics of that later on. But uh, I do I definitely believe in them enough to think that they have what it takes to adjust from that first game against whichever one they end up playing in playoffs. Um, they definitely have the tools and the know-how to look back at that game, to adjust, to see what was brought against them, what their opponents might change the second time around. Um, they're by no means are they a free win for either the Sky Pillars or Doesn't Click. So I'm assuming they do assuming they get into playoffs, which I believe just takes one more win for them. Uh, I'm excited to see how they adjust against either one of those teams.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good match to watch for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I as for other teams that I kind of wanted to hit on, just if we're gonna talk about, we talked about the teams that we liked a lot. Figured the teams that kind of disappointed us these last couple of weeks. I think New Wave and the Scar Marines, in particular. We could start with New Wave. This team, I feel, had a lot of potential, and we've seen almost none of it. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's not to say anything against Hector and Allen. They're both really good players. You know, we see them at locals all the time. They're players that are not to be messed with when you play them in BGC. But I wonder if they have the tools necessary to pull off the stuff that they want to pull off in a consistent way. You know,
Right. It's clearly a team comp issue, not a player issue.
No. And I honestly think that both these teams, the reason why I brought them both up is because we expected a lot out of both these two teams, and what we're seeing is the downfall of when you do not draft properly.
Yeah.
And we kind of went into it. We thought these teams were pretty good. You can go back and look at our report cards, and we gave these two teams pretty decent grades. Honestly, we liked the New Wave a decent amount. The Scar Marines we were a little bit more cold on.
Yeah.
But we still thought that it was a fun team that was going to be able to do some things definitely for them that we just really haven't really seen. They were able to get the anger point off once, but. And they had some opportunities too that I feel that were missed. Similar to the Mimikyus, they had opportunities too. But I think one of the things that you're gonna see is if they do decide to come back next year. I know Hector and Allen are probably gonna come back next year. Steve and Gooch, they seem committed. I hope they come back next year. I hope both these teams come back next year because the caliber of player is pretty high.
Yeah.
That they evaluate the draft a little bit more and really try and build something that can put out a little bit more consistency, because they have cool like techs and threats that need to be prepped for, but I just feel like the consistency, the backbone isn't there. Like we have a lot of I hate to kind of compare us, but we are one of the top teams, and if we're going to take to the number one team, we have a lot of cool stuff that we can do too. We have Shell Smash that we can use on Blastoise. We have Quiver Dance that we can use on Volcarona. But we try and set them up in a way that's going to be pretty consistent, like having redirection, having fake out options, stuff like that, all over the place, in multiple ways, in multiple sets. Really helps us be able to get some of the cool stuff that we want to do. It enables it a little bit.
Yeah. We have a wide variety of support.
Yes. And that doesn't even necessarily need to be support.
Yeah.
I mean, we brought offensive Grimmsnarl more than we brought offensive Blastoise. It's one of those things where we have the tools to kind of do stuff like that, and I just wonder if the New Wave just they have the ability to do it. I know Allen's an amazing team builder. I would never doubt Allen's team building ability, but a craftsman is only as good as their tools, you know. And I think the same about Steve and Gooch. I think Steve is a really good team builder too. I've seen some pretty creative stuff come out of him before, and I just feel that they don't have the tools right now. The Skarmories last year, we saw them when they were I forgot their team name last year.
Snowpoint Snoms.
Yes, they were the Snoms last year. I think that they were a playoff team last year, and I think that team that was given to them was drafted pretty decently. So it gave them the tools to where Steve could really do whatever he wanted and to be able to pull out wins. And I just wonder if they didn't draft the tools. So both these teams. So disappointing because obviously in both their names there's the SoCal Skarmory, the LA New Wave. We know these guys. We have played them before. You know. They're locals of ours, but I just wonder if they weren't really given the tools to succeed here.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly. It's for like I said for New Wave, I think it's true of both of these teams. It's more of a team composition problem rather than a player problem. I think it's the issues with their drafts are a little bit different from one another.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Skarmories it's more that it's kind of obvious what kind of combos they want to be going for, and if they don't get them off, then they're really lacking in offense. They're lacking in just the ability to close out a game. We saw that when they played against Ben and Vichy, that Hayes turn one just shut everything down.
Yeah.
And then a lot of these Pokemon just don't really do well when they're not Dynamaxed, particularly Lapras and Goodra. And then New Wave just it seemed like excuse me. It seemed like they picked up Mew at the beginning and then just didn't really build very well around it. Their team is not really all that Mew friendly. I think a lot of people, I don't know if this was their thought process, but I think a lot of people tend to think that since Mew can learn every move, it's a really splashable Pokemon. You can kind of put it on any team and have it fill any role. And we know from experience that it's not really like that. And I think that they've been starting to see that as well. And as for the rest of their team, it's sort of just, I don't know. It sort of lacks in Pokemon that can actually do stuff. We kind of saw that in our match this past week. You know, once we knocked out that Duraludon, they kind of couldn't really do anything. They didn't really have any tools to take us down or to stop us from what we wanted to do. That Tangrowth just sort of sat there, and the other side next to it just got demolished. And we've seen that a couple of times so far. I mean, their team against their game against the Potatoes went kind of the same way. It was Trick Room was up, and they had that Sandforce Excadrill that just blew through one side, and they just didn't really have the tools to stop their opponent's momentum or to get their own going.
Yeah.
So these teams are they have elements of them that are powerful, but there are some glaring weaknesses in these draft compositions as well that are really showing.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you hit on too is pretty important. You had mentioned that a lot of these Pokemon aren't very good outside of Dynamax.
Yeah.
I think that's a problem with the New Wave too.
Yeah.
The Dracozolt, the Mew, the Duraludon to an extent, the Tauros we've seen too. It's really good when you can get them Dynamax to get the boosts off. You can kind of get stuff rolling with them a little bit. So it's tough to see these two teams struggle, but we know the caliber of player these two teams have. So hopefully they'll be all right. They're not out of playoffs yet. It's just they're down here in the bottom of the power rankings, and we kind of wanted to at least talk a little bit on how we felt about them.
Yeah, and if they don't make playoffs, I'm excited to see both of them come back and see what they can do in drafting next season.
I think with LA New Wave too, because they're not new to multi battle, but they
Right.
are new to Gen 8 as far as multi battle is concerned. So the
Right.
rotating Dynamax,
Yeah, we did see them fake out into a Dynamax slot once. So
that can be a little tough. Prepping for Dynamax, it's so exhausting. It's one of the things that we talked about.
Yeah.
We get pulled on these last couple of seasons because Dynamax is one of those things that it's like, well, what if they Dynamax that? Oh, well, that kind of just throws a wrench into everything. You know, we're kind of doing it with people with Grimmsnarl right now because nobody's expecting it, and it has such a great move pool. You know, decent attack. You know, so we've been able to use it, and it just kind of catches people off guard. At least against the Skarmories and against who do we do? The Mats, right?
yeah, Skarmories, Mats, and New Wave.
I know we did against New Wave, but we
Yeah.
heard the Skarmories and we heard the Mats. But when the Grimmsnarl started the Dynamax, they were like,
That's weird. What?
Weren't expecting that.
Yeah.
And then it comes down and does damage, and they're like, oh, it gets that. It gets Stomping Tantrum. It gets this. It gets this. Like, yeah. So it's one of those things where some of these Pokemon do want to Dynamax, but if they're not Dynamax, they're a little bit lackluster, and you know it kind of pigeonholes them into a slot. It's like what the point you make about Lapras, which I think is such a key point. If you don't Dynamax it, then you're wasting an S tier Pokemon. You're wasting the S tier Pokemon on your team. You know, which it's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you're not Dynamaxing it in most of your games, you kind of have to wonder what it's doing there. You know?
It's not doing much.
Yeah.
There's a reason regular Lapras is B tier.
Yes, exactly. And you're dropping 2 grades from S to B. It's just rough. I do think that Lapras is worthy of being in an S tier, but I think that it requires so much support. And with the Pokemon that they have, like the Crocodile, that likes the Dynamax. I think it's top of the leaderboard right now. Am I wrong on that? Or no? At least the raw kills. It has like 14 kills, but it has too many deaths.
Oh,
so the
okay.
kill death, I think, has made it to where it's not at the top. But it's
Okay.
one of the best Pokemon that they have, and it picks
Right.
up a lot of KOs. So
Yeah, they've Dynamaxed it a few times.
yeah.
Yeah.
But then that, like you said, now their S tier is a B tier Pokemon.
And sometimes they don't even bring it if they're maxing something else.
And you really can't blame them.
Yeah.
Honestly, I wouldn't
Yeah.
blame them for not wanting to bring it. If it's not going to Dynamax, what is it doing there?
Yeah.
And I mean, it didn't hurt the Mats. They're in fourth on our power rankings right now. They didn't even bring Tyranitar to team preview.
Yeah.
You know, that's a
Well, for good reason. But yeah.
But you know, like it's like why even bring it if it's not going to do any good?
Yeah.
So, just a couple of points that we kind of wanted to hit on there. You know, should we talk about the Russians, the Potatoes, the flex teams right here that are in Sword Division?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, let's hit on them for a little bit. You know, I think if we're just gonna hit on the Russians, we're gonna talk about them more later. The 3-game skid that they're on right now is really rough. You know, you definitely want to win 1 or 2 of those games. Losing 3 in a row, that's not a good position.
Especially this last loss they took -5 differential.
Yeah, I think it was
or
-4.
Yeah.
Yes, but still, I mean,
yeah.
that's huge right now, where every mon matters. You know.
Yeah.
So it's a little rough to see them down at the 10th spot. We definitely do think they have the composition. They were a top 5 team at one point, but it just seems like it's the wheels have fallen off a little bit. Luckily, they are in a position still where they can make the playoffs, and if they can kind of gather themselves back up, we've already seen. Watch out! I mean, they have the threats there.
Yeah.
So if they're able to pull themselves together, I can totally see them being like the Mats last year, or some of these other teams. Although, bless you. Although the Mats did, you know, were on a little bit more of a winning streak last year, they did barely slide into playoffs. So I could totally see them doing something similar and making a deep run because they have the composition, the players are good, but the 3-game skid is tough.
Yeah. And on the flip side, Team Pussy now is on a bit of a winning streak. Have they taken 2 in a row, 3 in a row?
I think it's 3 in a row.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because they beat the Mimikyus and Doesn't Click
Doesn't
and
Click.
Russians. Yeah. Okay. So yeah,
They're in the thick of
they're
it.
showing up again.
Yeah.
They're back to attempting to restore their former glory.
Yeah.
and we know they're fully capable of doing that. They just put themselves back into like they were always in playoff contention, but they made themselves into a serious contender with these last few games, especially that last one. It was just so dominant, and I mean even just going with the same lead they went the week before, and it's still working out that well. That was it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, and key points too. Just because they went with the same lead does not mean that they brought the same sets. We saw that there was
Right.
different changes in the sets. They just felt that against Cinderace, that was their best thing to do.
Right.
It obviously worked against them, and with Doesn't Click, they got a little bit lucky. Of course, we'd never say that they did it, but it did get into that position to where they needed the crit. You know, it wasn't just a blowout game there. It did come down to the wire in the first place. So while they did get that luck, they obviously identified right away that the lead was a good lead that was going to put pressure down on pretty much anything that the Russians were going to bring them, and they were right. So kudos to them. They need to continue to win, but man, the Sword Division doesn't want to see Team Pussy in the 4th seed. I mean, if I were the Sky Pillars, obviously they had already taken wins off of them. Doesn't Click hasn't, but I'm pretty sure Doesn't Click feels pretty confident about their matchup against Team Pussy. I'm sure Fiona and Ryan would go, oh man, we would love to get
Yeah.
Team Pussy again in the playoffs, But,
Yeah.
But either way, I think if they slide into the playoffs, people better watch out. They're two really good players. Sebi, they're former champions. They won last year. They're defending champions. So definitely watch out for them.
Yeah, they might end up sneaking up on some people this time.
Yeah.
Considering how rough of a start they had, especially maybe players that were not around last season. So
Yeah.
who knows? I think their Team Pussy feels like a bit of a wild card right now.
Yes, absolutely. And they're I don't want to say they're desperate, but obviously they need to win, so they want to make the playoffs, so hopefully we're able to see them in there. The Potatoes and the Seniors, they both took losses this week. The Potatoes, man, they needed that one. They had the matchup,
Yeah.
they needed the win to kind of make it a little bit more comfortable for them going into this playoff race. But now they're in the thick of it with the Skarmories and U-Wave, teams that honestly, if they should probably been out of playoff contention already. But now because the Potatoes have not been able to close it out, they're back in the thick of it. The New Wave can come right back into it. The Skarmories can come right back into it. So disappointing to see the Potatoes lose to the Mats. That expertly played by them. And the Mats, obviously, they were able to lock their playoff spot because of it.
Yeah.
But man, I think the Potatoes really needed that one, and losing it really hurt.
Yeah, and it was so close too.
Yeah.
It was. I would feel a little bit disappointed if I were them,
A
especially
couple
because
one-turn
of the
sleeps
matchup.
would have been great.
Yeah.
But that's the way it is. And the Mats knew that. Like they came into it. So if they didn't go into it knowing what they had to do, I go, oh, they got lucky. But they knew we have to put them to sleep. We have to put down pressure on them, and we're gonna. I mean, Vichy said, we may have to go to time on this one.
Yeah.
In turn
Yeah.
like turn 2, turn 3.
Yeah.
So they knew their win conditions. So
Yeah.
disappointing. And then same with the Seniors. I mean, honestly, these losses are mirror images of each other. Obviously, the Seniors got beat down a little bit more.
Yeah, they just got blown out this week. Yeah.
But still, they needed the win. I understand that the Sky Pillars are really good. That's tough. But man, they needed that win and they weren't able to get it. I still like both these teams. I think the Potatoes were a top 5 team in the very beginning of the year, and
Yeah.
I do think they have that capability. Henry and Alyssa are great players. Haley's a fantastic alternate that they have, and this team composition is clearly one of the better ones that we've seen this year. But it's just hasn't been able to put together the wins that we thought, and a little disappointing to see that they weren't able to pull out the win against a matchup that they probably should have had in bag.
Yeah, but even so, I mean, they are still ahead of the Skarmories. They are still ahead of New Wave. As long as New Wave and the Skarmories don't pull ahead like crazy, all they have to do is kind of maintain, and they'll end up being okay. We'll get into that a little bit more in the next segment. But yeah, they're still in a decent position. They're still the most likely team to get that fourth seed in our division. The seniors unfortunately seem to be on a bit of a downward turn. It was really unfortunate to see them taking that forfeit loss against the Mimikyus, because that's one of those games that everybody else has a win on their record against them, and taking that forfeit loss that week when you were depending on getting a solid win to keep your record solid, really hurt him to take that win, to take that loss there, and now taking another really big loss this week. There's no shame in losing to the Sky Pillars, but like they still needed to pick up a win, and they lost by a lot, and that definitely really hurt them. So
it was a 5-0, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, that's -8 in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a huge blow to your differential.
Yeah.
And in such a tight sword division race, the seniors are a good team. They're one of those teams where I really feel that they should be in the top 5 every week. And they're honestly what I thought the Talonflames were gonna. I thought they were gonna be where the Talonflames are. Perennial top 5, top
Could
6. And
their team just ended up being really volatile.
Yes, yeah. And we saw some good wins out of them.
Yeah.
Early in the season, so we obviously know that they have the ability to do it.
Some creativity too.
Yeah. There's 2 weeks left. I mean, it's tough. I guess this is a good segue to go into the next segment here. These teams right here, they're gonna have to really battle it out to try and make it. If you're not one of the top 4 teams, top 5 teams, I guess, right? Because I guess Doesn't Click is looking pretty safe right now. They haven't officially locked, but
right,
it's coming pretty close to that point.
Yeah.
If you're not one of these top 5 teams, you're looking at these next few weeks, looking to see where you're going to be able to land in the bracket, and hoping that you can win. Because I think the only team that's mathematically out is the Lava Ridge Raiders. I believe even the Mimikyus have a chance.
Very slim chance, but mathematically it's possible.
But yeah, I mean, we'll go ahead and kind of stop right here, and we're gonna kind of talk more with our next guest, right?
Yeah, we've got a special guest coming up for the next segment. We're gonna go over some in a little bit more detail, some playoff scenarios.
Yep.
We're gonna talk about potential for which teams are going to take which seeds, what has to happen for certain teams to be in or out of playoffs. So that should be pretty interesting. So we'll
see you guys just around the corner.
Be right back
for our playoff scenarios. All right, guys, we're back. We are back with the playoff analysis here, and we're going into speculation, and we actually have a special guest. We have the commissioner of the league, Dave, with us, who's going to help us break down this playoffs picture stuff. Say hello, Dave.
Hello, everyone.
All right, so real quick, I'll just kind of get us all up to speed here. We're going to be looking at Shield Division right now. And starting at the top, you have us, the Amoonguss Burnouts. We have a 7 wins, 0 losses with a 21 differential. At number 2, the New England Patriots have 5 wins, 2 losses. They have a +8 differential. At number 3, you have the Matt Alcinas. 5 wins, 2 losses as well, but they have a +4 differential. Quick note, those 3 teams have locked playoffs. The seedings aren't locked in yet, but they have pretty much locked into playoffs. At number 4, we have the Potatoes. They have 3 wins, 4 losses with a -2 differential. At number 5, we have the SoCal Skarmories. They have 2 wins, 5 losses with a -7 differential. Number 6, we have LA New Wave, who also have 2 wins, 5 losses, just at -8 differential. So they're one Pokemon behind on the Skarmories there. And then the Lava Ridge Raiders, who have basically forfeited all their wins at a -3 differential. They're going to stay at 0-9 with a minus 29 differential. So they're going to basically be eliminated from the playoffs regardless. They're going to stay at 0-9. But right now we have the Potatoes, the Skarmories, and New Wave all vying for that fourth playoff spot. So I'll throw it to Matt first. What do you think? Who do you think is going to come out in the fourth playoff spot in Shield Division? And what do you guys think overall about how these seedings are going to take over? We have 2 weeks left.
I think if I had to put money on it, obviously the Potatoes are the favorite to take that fourth slot. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. The Skarmories and New Wave have a chance, but they also have they have a few difficult matches coming up. The Skarmories going up against the Toronto Talonflames. That's not going to be easy at all. Russian Assets as well, really fighting for a playoff slot in the other division. So, and then LA New Wave has to go against Team Pussy, which are they're in the same position as the Russians. They're fighting for a playoff slot. And then in week 10, New Wave is also going up against the Sky Pillars, which is going to be even more difficult since they are number one in their division right now. So it's going to be an uphill battle for both of those teams. I think the Potatoes have the best shot. It kind of looks like the numbers 1, 2, and 3 seeds are sort of solidified. We'll see how the Mats and the Patrats do. But for us, all it takes is one more win, and our spot at number 1 is locked in. So, but we do have Dave here to go over exactly what it's going to take for different teams to make different seeds, and for the current 4, 5, and 6 slots to get into the playoffs. So, Dave, what do you got for us? What does the playoff picture look like for you?
All right, so starting at the top with you guys, you basically already mentioned the clinch playoff spot. You're going to be the 1 seed just with one more win, mainly because then no one will be able to catch you with 8 wins. So like you just got to keep your foot on the gas pedal. Don't go scooping to Dean and Taryn. I picked you guys to win that match, so you guys got to pull through. As the pick'ems, I actually picked you guys to basically win out. I don't think you're gonna we have really good momentum right now, so I don't think you guys are gonna let up anytime soon. Really tough team to beat. The Pat Rats and the Alcinas, I have them actually splitting the last 2 weeks, so that would put them at the same exact record of potentially 6-3. So it's all going to be about differential there, and the Pat Rats have a 4 Pokemon lead in differential, so I think that's going to be pretty tough, because I know that I know Pat Rats have typically been really close in a lot of their matches, like you guys have been talking about a lot of your previous analysis of them. So I don't see it changing that much. I think it's going to be real close matches for them. So the differential isn't going to change much. So it's going to be up to the Alcinas to really make up for that, and just be really serious and get all the kills they can get.
Yeah, they're going to want to win big if they want that number 2 slot for sure.
Yeah, and it's all going to be about the matchups too, because no one's going to face you guys in the first round. It's like last season, no one wanted to face Team Pussy last year, and then my team was the team unfortunate enough to have to face them because we had no momentum going into the playoffs, and then we were just an easy target, and we got our butts kicked pretty easily. Yeah. So then, I already mentioned about the Malicinas and the Pat Rats, what they got to do. I agree with Matt about the Potatoes. I would probably put my money on them also, getting that 4th seed. I did actually pick all 3 of the teams, the Potatoes, the Skarmories, and the New Wave, to just lose out both their remaining games. But the Potatoes have that extra win in hand right now, and the 5 Pokemon lead in differential. So they just got to keep it close. I mean, I'm going to say it probably several times in this interview, but every kill matters. You just got to make sure that if you're in a situation where you can preserve a kill and do it just to save playoff seeding. But I think in the long run, even if they lose both the games, it's going to be, they'll just by default be up a game. And like the Skarmories right now, I mean, I know that like for a fact, like the Russians are probably really salty over like the last season when the Skarmories pretty much kicked their butts a little bit, and they were having a little bit of fun on stream and stuff. So I know that probably like ticked them off a little bit. So I know they want to get revenge. So I'm pretty sure they're gonna win that game. And then just the new wave, yeah, going against the Sky Pillars especially. I mean, they're gonna want to lock up that one seed. And when we get to Sword, I'll talk more about it. But Doesn't Click's like right up on their tail, and Doesn't Click has the only um, win against the Sky Pillars. So, I mean, that would come down to if they have a tie differential, then Doesn't Click would get the first seed. So I don't see Sky Pillars like taking it easy anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're pretty spot on. All three of these teams that are battling for this fourth slot, they have some seriously tough matchups ahead of them.
Yeah.
It like you said, it really just comes down to the fact that the Potatoes are ahead of the other two right now. We do fully expect all of these teams to take a lot of losses in these last 2 weeks. And the Potatoes just they have the advantage going into that situation, and maybe they have. You could argue they maybe have some slightly easier matchups, so it might be a little bit more likely for them to pick up a win or even two. But yeah, it mostly just comes down to them going into these last 2 weeks already ahead of these other two teams, the Skarmories and LA New Wave. Something else I want to emphasize that you said is that every kill matters. That's going to be important here. Obviously, it's important in almost every situation, but we're really going to see that when we jump into Sword Division as well.
Yeah,
For reasons I think most people are aware of at this point. So, any final thoughts on Shield Division before we move on?
I think real quick, I just wanted to mention that the three teams that are going against or that are trying to grab this last playoff spot, the Potatoes, the Skarmories, and the New Wave, their cross division matches are probably the worst case scenarios on who they don't want to see. All of these teams that they have to go against are fighting for position in Sword Division right now. And if we're just going to be real about it, the teams in Sword Division look a lot better than the teams in Shield Division. I think the only one that probably has an easy matchup, and we don't like to say it ever, but the Patriots, who are going to obviously be trying to get that 2 slot, have to play the Mimikyus. That's probably the only easy matchup that they have that's in any of these cross division games, because the Mimikyus also play the Raiders. The Raiders have already forfeited their spots, so everybody else is vying for a playoff spot, vying to try and get that first and second seed, and they all look better than their Shield Division counterparts who are also trying to do the same things here. So might have been easy if they might have gotten somebody that maybe like us, where we're only one loss or one win away from locking down the first seed. But I think, if the Sky Pillars don't lose, Doesn't Click, I think they let their foot off the gas a little. Because they may be locked in the first seed already. They're not super scared of Doesn't Click because they've already beat them once. But because of the fact that they know that Doesn't Click has already beat them once, they're going to do everything they can to avoid them in the first round. Which is exactly what you want to do. You get that first seed, they're most likely going to get the second or third seed. There's no way Doesn't Click doesn't get one of those seeds. Yeah. So you avoid them in the first round. And I think that's the smartest thing to do if you're the Sky Pillars right now. Don't let your foot off the gas. Try and avoid Doesn't Click in the first round. And you definitely do that if you're able to get the 1 seed in Sword Division.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, for sure.
It's going to be tough for the Mats, who are going to, obviously they want to lock down their position. And then the Sky Pillars also play the LA New Wave, who are going to, they're fighting for a playoff position too. So it's going to be tough, man. I think that pretty much are my thoughts on Shield Divisions. They have to play Sword Division counterparts that have, in general, been playing much better than them this year.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Dave, any final thoughts on Shield Division?
No, you guys pretty much hit everything on the head there. I mean, I think it's just really critical for whoever does get that 4th spot, even if it is the Potatoes, get as much momentum as possible. I was kind of tossing up their match against the Seniors, because the Seniors have been kind of losing momentum lately. I know they had to forfeit a match due to scheduling issues, and then they lost pretty badly today. So their momentum's going in the wrong direction. Potatoes, they had a really close one. They just lost basically to time because the timer is like ass. So they got to really just pick up the pieces, just put that loss away, just throw it out. Don't worry about it. Just go into the last two matches, trying to get at least one win, just to get some momentum, because they're likely going to be playing against you guys in the first round. So you need all the momentum you can get to have a chance against you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, moving on to Sword Division then. So just to update everybody on the standings, currently we have the Sky Pillars in the first seed, currently first place. After their last match against the Seniors, they became the first team in Sword Division to lock into playoffs. However, the seeding is up in the air right now, depending on how these last 2 weeks go. Second place we have Doesn't Click. They are Sky Pillars are 6-1 with a plus 19 differential. Second place Doesn't Click, 5-2 with a plus 14 differential. Both very strong differentials there. Third place, the Toronto Talonflames, 5-3. They have 8 games under their belt because they took a free win since they have one of their matches against the Lava Ridge Raiders in Week 10. They're at a plus 2 differential. Now it gets a little bit crazy. The Sadistic Seniors, Team Pussy, Russian Assets, all at 3 wins, 4 losses, all at -3 differential. You see here the Sadistic Seniors are on top because of the head-to-head tiebreaker. Their matches against both the Russian Assets and Team Pussy ended up winning, so they are on top there. And Team Pussy beat the Russian Assets, so they're coming in at number 5, and the Russians are sitting down at number 6. But this is extremely close. Again, if I had to put my money on it, the top 3 teams are making playoffs, and then the Seniors, Team Pussy, and the Russians are going to have to fight for that 4th slot. But it's going to be a lot closer in Sword Division than it is in Shield Division. And then down at the bottom, we have the Melee Mimikyus, 7th place, 2 wins, 6 losses, -14 differential. Mathematically, it is still possible for them to make playoffs, but it is, of course, very, very unlikely.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough for Shield Division or for Sword Division here if you're in the 4 through 6 slots. Dave, did you wanna hit on anything here? You just break it down for us a little bit on what needs to be done for some of these teams to try and sneak into playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Well, starting at the top, I mean, like we mentioned already, Sky Pillars are already in, but they can't take their foot off the gas. They gotta just keep that momentum going. Just try to get those last 2 wins, which I did pick them to win both their last 2 matches, because you don't want Doesn't Click to get ahead of you in the standings. And Doesn't Click, I have them picked as winning their last 2 matches too, unless they have anything terrible happen to them. I mean, I really feel bad for Doesn't Click with a lot of the stuff that goes on with some of their matches. I mean, we faced them last season, and we only beat them because of a double protect. I think I was joking with Austin about before, saying if I was ever playing Monopoly with Doesn't Click, they'd be the type of players I would I would land on Park Place, get doubles and roll, and get Boardwalk exactly the next roll, and then they'll flip the board, want to punch me in the face, and I'd be totally fine with it because I know that the next time around the board, I'd get back on Boardwalk and get $2,000 so I can go to the doctor and get taken care of. So I mean, that's what I feel it Doesn't Click. I feel terrible about them. I mean, just they have such terrible luck, but I still picked them to win both the last matches just because they are a very good team. I mean, they were 2-time champions for a reason. So I mean, I think they're still going to win both the last matches, and that's going to be really good finals if it does make it to that is a division finals, the Sky Pillars and Doesn't Click rematch. Mm-hmm. Talonflames, I mean, they have 1 match left, so I mean, they don't really have anything. They have the least amount of room for error. They basically just have to win their match and get as many kills as possible to try to hope that their opponents somehow drop below them. But differential-wise, that's going to be almost impossible because even if they get a 6-0 win, they're still only going to be at +8. And then even if the Pillars lose both their last 06, that's still -12. That's still +7. So it's going to be that's going to be like really almost impossible for them to get the first seed. So they just basically have to do their best to at least get that win and get as many kills as possible. 4 through 6, it's again, I mean, every kill matters. I mean, I say it like, over and over again. I'd get it as a T-shirt if I could, but if I wear it out in public, people would be suspicious as to why I'm wearing a shirt saying every kill matters. So I'm not going to be doing that. But I mean, you literally have to I have them all splitting. I have each of the 3 teams winning a match and losing a match.
Yeah.
And they're all tied with the differential. So they literally need to just every single possibility they have, or if they can do a switch late match where they know they're going to win, they have a Pokemon that's down in the red of health, they can just do a switch to preserve a kill. They need to do that because they got to think about seeding and playoff positioning. That if they don't do that switch, they could potentially be eliminated from the playoffs. So they got to all have that in mind. And then the Mimikyu's down there. I mean, 2 and 6. I mean, they're like the Ash Ketchum of the Sword division. I mean, they got 2 wins. It's like how Ash got got his first 2 gym badges without even actually winning the match. It's like the Mimikyus. They got 2 wins even though they didn't win a match, so their momentum's down. But they can play spoiler. They can at least try to get that last win. Go out as a hero at the end of the season. Try to play spoiler. So you never know what can happen. But I mean, it's going to be tight. I mean, there's going to be. That's all I can say. Just every kill matters. You need to just really make sure you're thinking about that in the match.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is going to be absolutely crazy to watch how it plays out. We don't even know. I mean, even with our pick'ems, we don't even know who exactly is going to fill that 4th slot because it's probably going to come down to differential, and that's so everybody needs to be aware of their differential pretty much all the time anyway. But all 3 of these teams, if you're watching right now. I know you probably know this, but you need to pay attention to those kills, and you need to preserve as many Pokemon as you can because this is the tightest race I've ever seen in this league.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I've never seen 3 teams tied on both record and differential before. That's insane.
It's going to be beneficial to go to tying too, honestly. Don't just lose. Keep your Pokemon alive. If you lose by 1, it's better than losing by 2, because
you don't want to win by time though. If you're gonna lose,
yeah, no, definitely.
If you're gonna lose a match, try to take them to time. Do everything you can to take them to time. If you're gonna win, then you want to kill as many things as many Pokemon on the other side of the field as you can.
It's gonna be very interesting
usually when the match goes to time, it's going to be a differential of 1.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe 2 in a rare situation. I mean, Austin and I had 2 matches that went to time that we won. It was actually a 0 differential because we had the same amount of Pokemon, but our side had more health than their side.
Yeah.
So that is totally terrible for that situation. So you don't want to be in that.
I don't think we've seen one of those yet in this season, but I mean, it could happen. Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, those are always the worst because there's no clear winner, and then it just comes down to you don't know who wins until the very last second, and it just comes down to HP. So it
comes down to as usual, a health of the Pokemon, and then giving the bird to whoever decided on this timer.
yeah, pretty much. Timer's rough in Sword and Shield for sure.
Well, we all came to the conclusion that the potatoes were going to take the 4th slot. The 4th spot in the playoffs in Shield division. Obviously, it's a lot tougher here in Sword division with the seniors, Team Pussy, and the Russians. At this point in week 8, they're all 3 and 4 at a -3 differential. But, and I'll start with you, Matt, first. If they're to split these, if every team is to end 4 and 5 at the end of the season, all right, who do you think gets in off of the differential? Because we do have them splitting, but who do you think gets in off the differential here?
Oh God, I think it might come down to who has the most sweeping potential, because that's how you get a lot of kills all at once without any of your Pokemon going down. I think it kind of seems like the seniors and the Russians have a little bit more sweeping potential, even though they do have big redirectors that tend to die.
Yeah.
Probably if all three of these teams split, I would put my money on one of those. Maybe the Russians more so than the Seniors, because the Seniors do have that Corviknight win condition that could take them down to timer. But they're both very hyper offensive. They both have the potential. I mean, really, all three teams have the potential to pick up a lot of KOs without taking any in return. And we especially saw that with this last match between Team Pussy and the Russians, that Diggersby and Gyarados lead just walloped them. So it's really hard to say if all three teams split. I'd put my money on the Russians.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of agree with you on that one. I think it's a toss-up between the Seniors and the Russians. The main reason is because with Team Pussy, they haven't really lost big, but they haven't won big either. All their games have come down to being very close. Obviously, they did have I think it was a 4-0 victory on the Russians there.
Yeah.
But that came down to a lot of, basically, if I've already be completely honest, not enough prep by the Russians, not seeing that how they dealt with the Cinderace in the last game against Doesn't Click. You know, they essentially led the same thing against them this time, I think, except they just had Intimidate on the Gyarados instead of Moxie.
Yeah.
So that obviously led in a bigger win. But
it's such a toss-up, though, between these three.
I typically, to get the pulse of a team, I tend to take their best game and their worst game out of the equation. And then what you have in between is that team. You know, you're always going to have a great day. You're always going to have a bad day. So what you do when those every week scenarios, that's really what you are. And when you do that to Team Pussy, and you take their worst loss and you take their best win out of there, you see a lot of games that are really just clutched out, that are really just hard fought. Maybe have came down to a crit or two, or a burn, or whatever it is that just either ended up having them win or having them lose. So I think that's going to hurt their differential a little bit more. And I can definitely see either the Seniors or the Russians winning big in one of these games. I would kind of bet on the Russians a little bit more too, because they found a more, I don't want to say consistent, they're 3-4, but it seems like their modes tends to be a little bit more on the more consistent side, especially considering their matchup, not particularly against us, because we think we're going to do pretty well, but against the SoCal Skarmories, I think they're going to have an all right match. What do you think, Dave? Out of these three teams, who do you put the money on to come out if they split it?
I'm actually putting my money on Team Pussy, mainly because they have momentum right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember they started I think it was 0-3. I think they were started.
0-4.
So now they're 0-4. Actually, they are 0-4. I'm sorry, 0-4. So they've won 3 in a row. So I mean, they're on a hot streak right now.
Yes.
So they're going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
The Seniors have lost the last 2, or maybe even more. I haven't been paying attention as much as I should be. The Russians, I mean, they lost the last few. I remember the Russians used to be in the top 5 in the rankings.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm mainly thinking that the Team Pussy, I mean, even though their games have not been as blowouty as they were last year, with basically had Rene just nuked everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically they're still winning games.
Yes.
So I mean, if they're able to there's a team that's going to get that a win-win out of the 3 of them, it would be Team Pussy. And I don't think they're gonna want to just throw their championship record away just like that. They're going to want to try to defend their title. I think so. I think they're if I'd put my money on, I would think it'd be them.
Honestly, I think that's a very good analysis of that situation there, because they are on the up and up here. They've won 3 in a row. The Russians have lost 3 in a row. I believe the Seniors have lost 3 in a row as well. I know they've lost the last 2 as well, for sure. But I believe they lost the last 3 as well. So, it's you're right about that. Team Pussy is headed in the right direction. Maybe something clicked for Sebi and Yue here. They're gonna be able to put this together. So, I mean, honestly, it's gonna be interesting to see.
I also think that just in terms of skill, I think I'd put Team Pussy above the other 2.
Yeah.
Which is no surprise considering they're returning champions. I think in the beginning they just had a few unfortunate games and a few unfortunate losses. Some of them we know came down to a little bit of RNG. It's the 0-4 record starting off was not was not really a good indication of what Sebi and Yue are capable of as players. And for those of us who have been in the league for a season or two are very aware of that. So, yeah, I would not be surprised to find Team Pussy taking that fourth slot. But as we've said, it's really up in the air.
We've said it once. We'll
Yeah,
say it
for
again.
sure.
Team Pussy only lost one game last year. One game. They're more
To
than
the Russians.
competent to to be able to pull this out and win out. Go on a little hot streak here. Uh, they can be more than a match to the Sky Pillars. With the Sky Pillars get the number 1 seed. And if we see a doesn't click Team Pussy in the final or in the semifinals to try and get into the main final, it's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna be a big match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so, definitely.
All
That'd
right.
be huge.
Any final thoughts on Sword Division?
No,
No, just that it's going to be really difficult to call right now. I mean, when I was doing my analysis, thinking of everything before, I mean, I kept on thinking of like this. There's like I don't know, not an old commercial. There's pre-racing commercial. There's like this old like professor doing this like really long, super detailed formula on the blackboard. And then there's like this guy like that's in the corner there. He's like cleaning off like what he did. He's like erasing it. That's what my feeling is with the Sword Division. It's like I can like pinpoint every single matchup and like I can say exactly who's going to win and why. And then someone's just going to come in and erase everything I said like the next week.
Yeah.
So
for
I
real.
mean, it's really tough to call, but I mean, it's really exciting, and that's what makes the league entertaining. Is just how committed these teams are to make the comeback to get that fourth seed. Because then once you get in the playoffs, anything can happen. Because
exactly.
I mean, the Sky Pillars are really good, but I mean, it depends on like. Again, momentum. I mean, if the Sky Pillars happen to lose their last 2 games for some reason, and Team Pussy, like I said, momentum-wise, and if they win their last 2, I mean, that'd be like 5 wins in a row. So I mean, that'd be like in the groove. Like they're not going to want to like lose at all. They're not going to want to lose their championship.
Yeah, definitely. You know who they kind of remind me of a little bit is Ben and Vichy, the Matt Alcinas last year.
Yeah, true.
They started off a little rocky, and they barely slipped in the Shield Division playoffs. They knocked down the top seed in the Patriots. They knocked us out of the playoffs in top 4, and they went on and they did end up losing in the finals, but they turned a season where they were showing a lot of inconsistencies. They won their last few games. They caught some momentum, and they just blew through 2 teams in the playoffs that were just tearing it up all year. I mean, we only lost 1 game, and the Patriots only lost 1 game, and the Mats beat both of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
All right, moving on from Sword Division. Next up, we have our pick'ems for Week 9, Week 10, and for the playoffs. The playoff bracket does look a little wonky for reasons that we've kind of already gone into, but let's start off with the Week 9 pick'em. So we have Team Pussy beating LA New Wave. Team Pussy obviously on a hot streak right now. They're extremely good players, returning champions. LA New Wave haven't really impressed us too much this season.
Haven't lived up to their expectations.
Yeah, for sure. Melee
need more
Mimikyu's
Shuckle.
taken. Sorry, what was that, Dave?
They need more Shuckle.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yep.
Melee Mimikyu's taking the free win against the Lava Ridge Raiders. Then we have the Sadistic Seniors versus the Potatoes. This one, I really feel like is really up in the air. They have the same record, and they're actually very close in differential. We are giving it to the Seniors, but this is one of those matches that I would not be surprised to see us getting wrong. Next, we have the Mad Alcinas versus the Sky Pillars. This is also going to be a really big one to watch. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. The Mats have shown a lot of good prep and good play. Their team comp is a little bit different now, so I'm curious to see how that pairs up against the Sky Pillars. But considering how good the Sky Pillars have been doing, and considering that I think the Sky Pillars probably have a better matchup on paper as well, we're gonna give it to them. Next up is the Patriots versus Doesn't Click. We're gonna give it to Doesn't Click here. They've been one of the more dominant teams this season. A little bit more dominant than the Patriots even though they both are at X and 2 right now. They've had some more unfortunate wins or losses than the Patriots have, and they've been a little bit more consistent, not going to time as much as the Patriots have. Then we have the Amoonguss Burnouts versus the Russian Assets. We've said it before, we'll say it again. We're picking us to win every time, and we have yet to be wrong. And the Russians seem like they're a downward spiral might be a little bit harsh, but they're
on a losing skid.
Yeah, they've been losing a lot of games lately, so we don't have it locked up. We're not scooping. We're definitely gonna bring it.
No, we're going for the undefeated regular season record.
Absolutely, yeah.
You better get that hot spot.
Yeah. And then we have the Toronto Talonflames versus the SoCal Skarmories. This one again, mostly just comes down to performance so far this season. Talonflames have been doing a lot better than the Skarmories, and we don't really see that changing much. Any additional comments on Week 9?
Nope, you hit it on the head. I agreed with all your picks. So hopefully I'm right. I mean, I could be wrong. Again, like the one I was like struggling with the most was the seniors and potatoes. I think I originally was going to pick the potatoes, and I switched it to the seniors because like the feeling that the seniors have more pressure on them to win, to stay in the playoff hunt, where the potatoes, they kind of have like a game in hand. Not saying that they'll take the pedal off the gas for that, but that it was just like a toss up. It was really tough for me to decide, but that's why I eventually went with the seniors in the end.
For sure, yeah, I agree. That's clearly the match out of all the Week 9 matches. That's clearly the one that's most up in the air. I'm really curious to see how that one plays out. Any thoughts on Week 9?
Yeah, I think
this is all going to be good.
I think the Mats versus the Sky Pillars is going to be a very, very good one too. Obviously we picked the Sky Pillars here, but I think we're gonna find out why that Tyranitar is here.
Yeah.
I think this is gonna be one of the times where we find out why that Tyranitar is here. Granted, obviously the Sky Pillars have shown amazing prep, and they've been able to adjust pretty much to any team. The Tyranitar has a pretty good matchup here. They have a couple other things like the Urshifu that has a decent matchup. So this is gonna be a good one. We chose the Sky Pillars, but honestly, the Mats have been known a little bit as giant killers. We were very surprised to get a win off of them because we were almost certain that it was gonna come down to like a couple of plays, and we just kind of I think we might have caught them on a bad week or something. Just because the last couple of weeks they've just been on a tear. If they would have shown any of that on the week that we played them, we would have been in for it. So, I think the Mats are going to give the Sky Pillars they're going to let them know how Shield Division does it, even though it doesn't look like Shield Division's doing much.
Yeah,
they're going to let them know, hey, they're not all bad.
Yeah, for sure. That's gonna be a big one to watch. I wanna see that one for sure. Moving on to Week 10, we've got Team Pussy versus us, the Amoonguss Burnouts. This is gonna be a really good match. Team Pussy's looking a lot scarier than they were in the beginning of the season. But once again, we're undefeated, and we intend to stay that way. Then we have the Melee Mimikyus versus the New England Patrats. This one's pretty clear. Mimikyus haven't been doing so well this season. The Patrats are one of the top teams in Shield Division. We fully expect them to take that match. Then we have the Sadistic Seniors versus the Matt Alcinas. This one's also gonna be really good to watch. We do have the Mats taking this one. They have been doing a little bit better than the seniors performance-wise, record-wise. Again, I'm fascinated to see how this one is going to play out. But I think the Mats do have a pretty good matchup on paper as well. I think the Tyranitar especially is going to cause a lot of problems there. Then we have the Russian Assets versus the SoCal Skarmories. This one's a little bit up in the air, but I feel that mostly just because of how the Russians have been doing more recently. But overall, their performance this season has been better than the Skarmories, so we expect that to stay consistent with this match. Then we have Doesn't Click versus the Potatoes. This is going to be a very difficult match for the Potatoes. They luckily for them, the two teams that they're fighting against for that last slot also have difficult matches. I don't think it's surprising to anybody to see us picking Doesn't Click here. Same with the next match, the Sky Pillars versus LA New Wave. Sky Pillars, they're the top team in Sword Division. LA New Wave hasn't been performing as well as we expected them to. Again, no surprise here that we're picking the Sky Pillars. And then we have the Toronto Talonflames taking that free win against the Lava Ridge Raiders to finish off Week 10. Any additional thoughts on Week 10, guys?
You can go first.
Let me see. Honestly, I think not to hit back on the Mats. I think that's going to be a great one. I think the Mats versus the seniors. The seniors are going to be. They need these wins. I think them and the Potatoes. You're looking at teams that they're playing against teams that have already locked in the playoffs, but they want that seeding. And I don't see Doesn't Click taking it easy on the Potatoes for no reason. I don't see the Mats, taking it easy on the seniors because they've already lost their playoff spots. So it's tough if you're those two teams, but you never know, man. When you corner an animal, it becomes very aggressive, and these are some corner teams right now. They need victories, and who knows what they're going to be able to pull out.
Yeah, this Week 10 is going to be kind of a bloodbath.
Yeah.
A lot of teams need a lot of wins.
Especially for Sword Division, for sure. I mean, you can't really have a bloodbath with a shield unless you're really creative. I mean, with a sword, it's pretty easy to have a bloodbath. So I think a lot of these sword teams are going to be cutting into some shield Week 10, mainly because, I mean, they're going to be fighting for playoff lives where, like you already mentioned, the shield division is going to be pretty much already locked in. And maybe they shouldn't be, but maybe they'll be thinking ahead to playoffs and like who their first round opponent is, and they'll just like say, well, I'm not even going to worry about this because I know my first round opponent is going to be. I mean, might be a scenario where maybe the Pat Rats and the Alcinas already know they're going to face each other. They might have already locked up at like a 2 and 3 seed. You guys might have already locked up a 1 seed, and that's just who's going to make the 4 seed, or maybe Potatoes might have already gotten that if they win Week 9 and then and other two teams lose, and then then there's like no way they can come back. So it might be pretty much locked in. So I think it's just going to be mainly for what we said before about every kill matters with the Sword Division. Just they're going to be really getting a lot of those kills to see if they can make that last spot.
Yeah, I think it's very fitting that that Sword Division is the one that's really out for blood right now, for sure. Yeah,
exactly.
Moving on to the what we predict to be the playoff bracket. Again, looks a little weird, at least on the Sword Division side, but this bracket is assuming that all of our pick'ems are correct. We have on the Shield Division side over on the left, the 1 seed, us, the Amoonguss Burnouts, versus the 4 seed, the Potatoes, and then we have the 2 seed, New England Patriots, versus the 3 seed, the Mad Alcinas. Over on the right side for Shield Division, on top we have the Sky Pillars taking the 1st seed, going up against either the Sadistic Seniors or Team Pussy or the Russian Assets in that 4th seed. Again, it's a serious toss-up here as to which team is going to get that 4th seed. They're all tied right now. It's going to come down to differential, most likely, if our pick'ems are correct at least. And if the chips fall a certain way, it may come down to head-to-head record, which does favors the Sadistic Seniors first and favors Team Pussy second. And then down there at the in the last matchup, we have the 2 seed Doesn't Click taking on the 3 seed, the Toronto Talonflames. So this is most likely what we think the playoff bracket is going to look like. Of course, there can't be 3 teams ultimately in that 4th seed in Sword Division, so it's not going to look exactly like this. But one of those teams is going to get that 4th seed. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. But that's. Think that's about all we have. Any final thoughts from either of you guys?
Yeah, I just have the 3 main takeaways. Make the all you guys, all the teams out there, just number one, make sure you're in sync with your teammate. Make sure you're agreeing on a strategy before starting the match. Know when to change your plan. Like if something's going wrong, like know what your plan B is. I mean, basically just have a plan. If you don't have a plan, you're going to be planning to fail, and lose. So every match counts right now. So you got to really be in sync. Number two, momentum is key. Make sure you're going into the playoffs winning. Don't go into the playoffs losing. My team was a perfect example last season. We were like, you started like 4-0. We lost to Team Pussy. We got 2 wins that we probably shouldn't have gotten. And then we kind of lost momentum. We lost our last 2. We went to the playoffs losing, and we lost in the first round. So you don't want to do that. You want to go into the playoffs winning on a hot streak. And that's why I think Team Pussy might have the advantage for that 4 seed in Sword, because they're on a winning streak right now. And I mean, if they go into the playoffs like winning like that, I mean, I would seriously think that they might have a chance of taking over the Sky Pillars there, just with the momentum they have. And then number 3 again. I mean, I've said it like a million times already, but every kill matters. Just go get them, get your sword out. Just kill everything you can kill and preserve what you can preserve. And that's all I got.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's fantastic advice. Any final thoughts, Anthony?
I think that's all really good advice Dave gave. I think that's definitely how you want to approach the playoffs in these next couple of weeks. Looking at the playoff picture though, especially on the Shield side, we're seeing almost a replica of last year, where the Patrats they were the 1 seed last year, but they're still going against the Mats. And with us, we are going against not Haley and Udu this time, but Haley, Alyssa, and Henry.
Yeah.
So, a little bit of a repeat here.
I do hope we get to play Henry this time if it plays out this way.
Doesn't
he-
matter. Doesn't matter.
Oh sure. I mean, we're gonna win either way, but I just felt bad that he wasn't there the first time we got to play them this season.
But I do love playing Haley too. It's always fun playing a good SoCal local in multi-battle. But Sword Division is going to be bloody. Who knows who's going to come out of there? I think it's reasonable that what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams on the bracket. I honestly think you can make a case for all of them coming out of Sword Division. I wouldn't be surprised if the Russians came out and beat the Sky Pillars, and then it comes in against Doesn't Click. They've already beat Doesn't Click once. You can see it with Team Pussy. You can see it with the Seniors. You can see it with the Talon Flames. You can see it with any of these teams. They just need to win 2 games, and I can see it with all of them. Obviously, in my opinion, I think Doesn't Click is probably the favorite, even if they are in the 2nd seed. But it's going to be Sword Division is going to be the division to watch. We're going to get our capture card ready so that way we try not to miss any Sword Division action in the league here.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you guys got to remember too, like that the only time that the Sky Pillars lost was to Doesn't Click, and then I remember them mentioning in like spoilers they lost turn 1. So maybe a good way to get at the Sky Pillars is to like think of some sort of like meme or strategy that they didn't think of, and like get them turn 1 where it's hard for them to come back.
Yeah, true. Yeah, if they get matched up again, I'm curious to see how that match ends up being different. But I think that about does it for us. I want to give a big thanks to Dave for coming on again. It's unfortunate that you didn't get to play this season, but it looks like you are probably going to be coming back next season with Austin. Is that correct?
Yep. The dads will be back.
All right.
Austin successfully raised his child to the point where he can play Pokemon again. He's been practicing a lot, so he's been like getting ready. So he's chopping at the bit. I'm chopping at the bit. So we're gonna, bring the dads back next season.
Awesome. I'm very excited for that. Thanks again for coming on and talking about the playoff picture with us.
Yeah, thanks, Dave.
No problem.
So
Take care, guys.
That should about do it for us this week. We will see you guys next time for the next power rankings.
See you guys. Take care.